Hey everybody out there, my name is Dragnix, and these are my first thoughts on Final Fantasy 15. I've got about 10 hours in the game right now, and while I will be doing a full review of the game, I did want to get my first thoughts out there. I want to reiterate that if you're expecting a highly edited, highly scripted review from me, that's going to come later. Right now, these are my first thoughts, and they're going to be more off the cuff. Things are going to be disorganized, things are going to be imbalanced in terms of the video, but I want to get my thoughts out there. Let me answer the obvious questions first. Have I enjoyed my time with Final Fantasy 15 in the first 10 hours? Yes I have. Based on the first 10 hours, do I think this is going to be a good game to get? Yes I do. Do I think it's going to be a great game to get? I'm not so sure at this point. It's still got to show me a little bit before I can guarantee that it's going to be in an 85-90 range in terms of buyability. And here's the big question. Do I think this is a great game for the Final Fantasy franchise? That I'm not so sure on. Don't get me wrong, there are some elements of Final Fantasy in here, that's for sure. The overarching plot, some of the classic enemies, and it does have some of the elements that I would expect from the franchise. On the other hand, it's definitely gone in a new direction, and certain elements of the combat, certain elements of the MMO open world-like mechanics, I'm not so fond of. Let me start with the combat, because I think the combat is going to be the most decisive element of this game. It is an action-oriented RPG. Yes, there are technical elements to it, casting certain spells, being able to use certain abilities like Ignis is here, but in the end, it is an action RPG. You are doing combos, you need to put yourself in the right position in order to hit enemies in certain locations, so on and so forth. Where the combat is at its best, in my opinion, is when you're facing enemies that are significantly stronger than you. Enemies that are 5, 10 levels above you. In particular, when you're facing enemies at night, because they're going to be huge enemies. They're going to be enemies that are really going to rock you, and you're going to take a lot of damage. This crab fight, for example, I am taking significant amounts of damage. I'm having to use potions left and right. I'm having to switch up my mechanics. And when you have to switch up your mechanics because you're put into a corner, I think this game is at its best. Because then you're like, okay, I'm not doing something right. What do I need to do? Maybe I need to change my weapon. Maybe I need to mark people with Ignis being able to do a little damage here and there. Maybe I need to focus on blocking more rather than just all-out assault. The game, when it gets technical, is really good. When you're able to sort of feel the flow of combat, being able to get into that zen-like state where you warp in, hit an enemy, go around, hit them for a blindside attack, then using one of your partners and being able to hit a link attack, things are awesome. You feel like a badass. But when that flow is broken, things start to fall apart. When you get into this chaotic sense of combat, like you have no idea what's going on, there's too much happening on screen, there's information overload, you can start to feel like you just need to start slashing over and over again. And that can become a problem. In the active time system, there's so much going on and you don't have a moment to breathe. At certain points, things can start to overload you. For example, when I use Gladius's Tempest ability here, luckily I'm able to see myself in the foreground, being able to see where I am, and so when I switch back to me, okay, things are easy to comprehend. But that's not always the case. When you've got like 10 or 12 enemies on screen and you use an ability like that, then all of a sudden you have no idea where you are. Enemies have moved positions, your allies have moved positions, and things just get, it just gets to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm just going to start hitting people with my sword now. I don't really care about strategy. See, there's something about the way the game progresses in terms of its combat and the side quest in particular that I'm not liking so far. The fact is, when I'm facing these Imperial riflemen, these Imperial soldiers in the story element, I'm significantly tougher than them right now, and they are a pushover. And I did every side quest, even though there weren't that many side quests at the start. The game has definitely opened up after the 10-hour portion where I've got a lot more side quests, but here I'm just decimating these guys with really no, skill involved. And when that's part of the story element, I am getting a little concerned if the game is going to become way too easy as I go along, and maybe I should focus on this campaign portion and then go back to those side portions. One of my biggest concerns about the game is if the combat's going to be able to hold up at the 20-hour mark, at the 30-hour mark. The thing is that when it comes to strategy, I do see a limitation of how they've implemented things. For example, you have your magic spells. You can craft magic spells outside of battle, and they can be used as items within battle. Spells like Blizzard, spells like Thunder, so on and so forth. They can even have elements to them that would be a little bit more unique. For example, you can cast a lightning spell that will actually heal your party as a sort of side benefit. One of the main reasons that I love the old Final Fantasy games, even Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy 3, 2, 1, all those old games, is that I could have this huge arsenal and use them in all these different ways in order to get through these battles. I could have a spell list of 30 or 40 spells at one time, and maybe I wouldn't use them all in every situation, but I could have that slow spell that I needed in that one specific fight. Now, you can still do that in this combat, but the thing is that you go into the menus in the middle of active battle. And while you can switch things out, you can't do it naturally. You can't do it within the battle itself. You know, select a magic spell from 20 in the middle of battle. Very similar to Final Fantasy 12, and where you could have all those spells available, and you'd have to go through the list, but things were still going on. Really, for the sake of convenience, the game wants you to be prepared going into battle, in more ways than one. For example, you can have hearty meals at campsites or at hotels to give your guys buffs going into the next battle. And they're significant buffs. Things like, plus 500 HP early on in the game. Yeah, that's significant because that's literally half my HP right now. There's an overarching design coming from MMOs here that is clear in its influence. This game feels very MMO-like in terms of, only you focusing on your one character. You can't switch characters like in Final Fantasy 12 or in Final Fantasy 10 where you control all the characters. No, you only control Noctis. And I've never liked that because I love the strategy element of it, but I understand why they want to focus on the action portion. But the MMO-like mechanics, the fact that, you're buffing yourself before battle, you're preparing yourself before battle, all the chaos on screen, the sort of, I don't want to say cinematic, but the sort of feel of this huge battle and getting lost in it. It really does feel like you are going up against raid bosses at times, even with the sort of regular enemies in the game. One of the reasons why I was hesitant to do a first thoughts video, despite the fact that people were asking for it, is that combat systems in particular in RPGs are very complex as the game goes along. It adds more enemies, more types, more strategies, and in order to get a full understanding of what it has to offer, you really can't just play the first 8 hours of the game. You can't play the first 16 hours. Maybe in a game like Pokemon where it's a little bit more basic, but even then you start to introduce new mechanics as you go along, stronger enemies, maybe dual battle types, so on and so forth. So right now, what I see from the combat is potential, and when it reaches that potential, things are fabulous. But it's a question of whether or not it can keep up that potential as the game goes along. I have hesitations to believe that it can, but if it introduces the right mechanics, if it makes enemies a little bit more strategic in terms of the way they go about things, if they give me one or two elements where I can control the battlefield a little bit more, then I really do think that, yes, I will want to keep on playing this battle system over and over again, because again, when it's revving on all engines, things are fabulous. As for side missions and side quests, look, the game started off strong in my opinion. Now, the formula is the same as always. Go fetch this item for me. Go kill those people for me. It isn't anything along the lines of like Final Fantasy VI's side quest, where it was just like, holy shit, let me learn about Gaio. Let me learn about this character and this side quest, at least right now at this point. But with that said, the game had this unique feel to it. For example, there's a portion of the game where you actually have to go get some antique wax for Cindy. Now that sounds horrible. That sounds like a fetch quest to end all fetch quests. The thing is that while it doesn't really help you in terms of the quest, yeah, you get some properties on your car so that it is more fuel efficient. It's the story about that wax and what it means that really impressed me. The fact that they were able to tie the wax into the history of this world. Okay, this city that used to be, this wonderful hub of all these, creative people, once the wall went up, you saw items like this disappear outside of those walls. That kind of stuff gets me interested. That kind of stuff makes me want to do more side quests to learn more about this world, because guess what? That's interesting. That is world building, and I love the fact that the game was able to introduce those elements in these side quests. That's what was missing in some of the other Final Fantasy games that really haven't done that well, in my opinion, like Final Fantasy 13. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. You got a dog tags mission, and at first it's like, okay, it gives a good reason of why you're picking up these dog tags, to remember these hunters, and you're trying to help out. And while, yes, it starts off good, it does it again, and then does it again, and it doesn't add to it. It feels like I'm just going through the motions, and unfortunately, with all the side quests in the game so far, it just feels like busy work, and I want more out of the game. And while I've given you a bunch of reasons where I'm concerned about the future of this fighting, those are concerns. A lot of my big problems with the gameplay mechanics right now have to do with the tiny things, the little things that were implemented that feel like they just get in my way. Final Fantasy 15 stamina bar. Let me just go on record saying that there are certain situations that stamina bars are useful. Being able to stop a person from spamming an attack over and over again. Maybe you feel the element of stamina coming into play when you're crossing a large field. But when it's as consistently running out as it is in Final Fantasy 15, then it just becomes a huge, huge annoyance. For example, going to the end of this dock, I'm running out of stamina and now I have to walk. I just want to get to the end of the dock to get the next quest, to get an item. This isn't fun. This is annoying, in my opinion, and it happens so often, especially with the quests, where you have to run across the field and you're running out of breath over and over and over again just to get to the area that you need. You're not running from enemies. You're not running from, situations where it's just like, okay, you need to go fight them and let's make it so that you can't get away because of a stamina bar. No, this is just delaying the inevitable. I'm going to be completely upfront with you guys. I think the stamina bar in this game was only developed so that you can look at the presentation of the game and you take focus of the trees and you take focus of the, beautiful elements of the game. It feels like the game really wants you to focus on the environments. And don't get me wrong, the environments are goddamn beautiful. Being able to drive in your car and seeing what's out there, that's great. But when you force me into the car and force me in there and saying you have to look at everything while you go to your next quest, I just don't understand why you force me into that little bubble. Now, with that said, Final Fantasy 15 is one of the most beautiful games that I've seen in a long while. And yes, I know grammar and everything, but it is fantastic. And it has more to do with the way it presents itself than graphical fidelity, because there are some issues that I see in terms of graphical fidelity. When you're driving along and there's this sort of blur effect on certain characters because, well, I don't know if the game is having troubles or if it's purposeful. It's almost like it's got a Matrix type of, blur effect on it, where it just like, it feels computerized. It feels like it's like you're in the Matrix itself. But with that said, the sprawling environments and the camera angles that you can get at certain points are just sort of breathtaking. It really does feel like Final Fantasy 15 is trying to put on a show for you. It's trying to be cinematic in certain aspects. And I think it really does succeed. Even though I think there's too much emphasis at times on it, the fact is this feels like an epic adventure thanks to this presentation. These huge structures, the life of a town where there's just so much detail in the town, so many people playing around. It's the little things that really sell it. Like, kids playing that game where you have to sneak up on someone in order to tag them, and if they turn around, a red light, green light, where they have to turn around and if they see you moving, they tag you. It's those little elements within the game that really sells this world and its presentation. And I have to give Square Enix all the credit in the world. The 10-year development cycle it's shown here. It's shown in those little moments because, my God, I feel like I'm part of this world. The music is fantastic, and you should expect that from a Final Fantasy game. But I also love the fact that they've included pretty much every Final Fantasy soundtrack when you're driving in the car. You can pick them up at the stores, which, by the way, that is a recommendation I have to you guys, because I love the fact that I can, bust out Final Fantasy 3's battle music. That's just entertaining to me, and it makes me feel, a bit of nostalgia while transitioning into a new era of Final Fantasy. This all comes together in the photo mode, which Prompto will take random photos while you're doing quests, and while you don't necessarily control that, you can control that with one specific ability. The thing is that the algorithm that actually creates the photo is actually rather cool. It uses a combination of different poses, the environments, and the in-battle ones in particular, the weapons that you use, the enemies that you face. It's able to create something that looks real. It probably didn't happen that way, but the thing is, you think it happens that way, and thus you want to share it with people. The shareability of these photos, if anybody's been following me on Twitter, yeah, there are some really, really good photo moments in this game, and I am really impressed at this one little side element of the game that has gotten me so hooked on it. One of the strongest elements of Final Fantasy 15 actually surprised me, and it's its storytelling. Now, the template of Final Fantasy stories has been long known ever since Final Fantasy 1. There's a kingdom, somebody's trying to take it over, there's going to be oppression themes, there's going to be religious themes, so on and so forth. That is still here, don't get me wrong. But one of the biggest complaints I have about a game like Final Fantasy 13, and to a lesser extent Final Fantasy 12, was that the characters and their interactions were, I don't want to say horrible, but they felt so disconnected. Like, I understand that there were connections between Lightning and, all the other characters and Hope and characters like that. And even in 12, I understand the character like Fran and Balthasar, how they connect with each other. And yes, I know I probably butchered that name, but they felt like such a mishmash of people. In Final Fantasy 15, this group of characters, these 4 guys, all feel like they are supposed to be there, and they all work together for this one goal. Even though you have these characters who may not necessarily have, strong personalities in certain cases, they may not be outlandish like a Kefka of the series, they feel real, and they feel real in a way where you want to learn more about them. Their interactions feel human, and that's the thing I'm going to emphasize. They feel human, they feel real. Part of the problem with Final Fantasy 13, probably the problem with Final Fantasy 12 in my opinion, is that those characters felt like concepts more than anything. Lightning felt like it was Cloud, but sort of broken down in terms of mechanically. They wanted another Cloud, so they built a character as opposed to constructing a character who had emotion, who had these kind of feelings, and building her from the ground up. It felt like the soul had been taken out of it. The soul of the characters here are strong, and it makes me want to finish the story because I want to see how these characters react to these new situations. There's some interesting side characters. The side quest characters are also interesting. It makes me want to know more about this world and story that is bounds ahead of Final Fantasy 13. It is bounds ahead of Final Fantasy 12 in my opinion, other than Fran. It's written a lot better here. And while there's nothing here that's going to pop you in the face like, a Witcher 3 type of side quest, it is going to get you interested, and I think that's the thing that I want to get across. Alright, I'm going to end it there. I'm going to be doing a full review, so if you want to stick around for that, by all means subscribe, like the video, so on and so forth, all that jazz. I'm not going to go over that. But if you do want to get specific questions from me right now, leave them in the comments section below, and I will answer them to the best of my abilities right now. Again, I'm only 10 hours in. RPGs, you gotta go through the entire game in order to get a full opinion on, because guess what? The ending makes a huge difference. The storytelling makes a huge difference. The progression of battle makes a huge difference. And while I'm not gonna say to anyone, go pick up this game right now, there is enough intrigue that I think people should at least keep this on its radar.